This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
Next on the 5 o'clock report.
Everyone's struggling. Everyone can only afford to hire part-timers.
They would rather champion a criminal than the victim.
Math class, using word problems that use they, them pronouns to normalize that.
Now, let's go to the newsroom.
Good afternoon and welcome to the broadcast. I'm Family Life News anchor Sarah Harnish. Dairy Delight, a yogurt factory, is bringing 1,000 jobs to tornado-weary Rome, New York. Governor Kathy Hochul.
A $1 billion investment here in upstate New York. $1 billion. Let's talk about 1 million square feet going to be built right here in this great facility. 1 million square feet.
People are reacting to Tuesday's groundbreaking ceremony for Chobani yogurt. Rosemary Valente is a Rome resident.
We need something like this in the community. We really do. I think it's great.
10 months ago, Rome's downtown took a direct hit from a rare tornado, one of the strongest to hit the Mohawk Valley in 34 years. 82 buildings had significant damage. People today say they're starting to feel a change in the air. Rome resident Brendan Ream.
It kind of hit a lot of the jobs that people were working in here in Rome and cut through people's lives. And I think that Chobani is going to give people what they want back.
Everyone's struggling. Everyone can only afford to hire part-timers. People need more help. They need full-time positions, and I think this is good for the area.
The dairy processing facility, a shot in the arm also for struggling dairy farmers upstate. It marks the biggest investment in natural food manufacturing in U.S. history. When fully operational, the Chobani plant will process 12 million pounds of milk every day in Rome, New York. Democratic upset. The U.S. Senate's number 2 Democrat is not seeking re-election next year. Dick Durbin of Illinois will leave at the end of his term after 4 decades in office. Analyst Larry Sabato.
I think he read the mood correctly. It is a safe Democratic seat. There is virtually no chance that that seat would go to a Republican. Illinois has become a safe Democratic haven.
Investors on Wall Street got good news today from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent.
He mentioned over 100 countries have come to the table with either a willingness to negotiate or a proposal. We haven't seen concrete evidence of what those trade deals would look like, but that number does keep growing.
The Dow up over 1,000 points today. Bessent also said the U.S. is in active talks with China. There was a planned meeting in London on ending the war in Ukraine, but it was scrapped at the last minute. From India, Vice President J.D. Vance said the administration's patience is nearing an end.
We've issued a very explicit proposal to both the Russians and the Ukrainians, and it's time for them to either say yes or for the United States to walk away from this process. We've engaged in an extraordinary amount of diplomacy.
Overwhelming turnout. The Vatican just extended viewing hours of the Pope's body until midnight tonight because of the size of the crowds pouring into Rome.
It's kind of just a mixture of emotions. I mean, I'm anxious walking in. It's such a surreal place, and it's very holy, and seeing the body and just remembering everything that he stood for is very important.
Pope Francis will lie in state for 3 days before Saturday's funeral that's expected to draw at least 250,000 people. A judge is giving the Department of Justice until 6 p.m. tonight to provide answers about what is going on in the case of Abrego Garcia, the Maryland man Democrats say was accidentally deported to El Salvador. Fox's Laura Ingram with Democratic Representative Yasamin Ansari.
Laura, it is about the rule of law. This is a bipartisan issue. It transcends partisan politics. That's why a conservative-leaning Supreme Court has said that Donald Trump must facilitate the return of this individual.
But Border Czar Tom Homan said today terrorists do not get the rights of American citizens.
I find it incredible that there's all this push for more due process for these designated terrorists, when in fact no one asked for due process when they crossed the border. Where were a lot of these folks when they had a 600% increase in sex trafficking of women and children? Where was everybody when we had 250,000 Americans dying from fentanyl?
Patty Morin is the mom of murdered mother of 5 Rachel Morin, who died at the hands of an illegal immigrant.
They would rather champion a criminal than the victim. I think it is like Utterly despicable.
The Trump administration says Garcia is an MS-13 gang member and not a Maryland resident. Now to the U.S. Supreme Court. We're learning a little more about what happened in the courtroom Tuesday as the 9 justices heard arguments on a landmark religious freedom case. Can parents in Montgomery, Maryland opt out when their kids are required to listen to LGBTQ plus curriculum in schools? Fox News anchor John Roberts.
Greg Gutfeld said it last night that Montgomery County School Board has done something that nobody else ever could do, and that is to unite Muslims, Jews, and Christians all over the same issue.
Nicole Neely is the founder of Parents Defending Education. She says this isn't about just a few books. Gender ideology is being inserted into just about every subject, and parents need to fight back now.
Math class, using word problems that use they, them pronouns to normalize that. Reading, science, history. In the Montgomery County case in particular, it really highlights that this goes down to very, very young ages. Kindergarten, pre-kindergarten. Those are 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds. And so Wise Public School District is determined to rip a child's innocence away with our tax dollars behind our back is really a slap in the face.
The court will decide the case in June. And the stars will be smiling back at us early Friday, sort of. A rare occurrence of the crescent moon aligning with Saturn and Venus will look exactly like a smiley face emoji. We should be able to see the crescent moon on its side like a smile with the 2 planets above, which will look like eyes. The smiley face emoji in the night sky, look for it early Friday morning. Still to come on the 5 o'clock report, a deeper peek at the fire at the governor's house, top supermarket shooting update, and the Pennsylvania county that will pay you to live there. Those stories after weather with Kevin Williams.
Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We'll take the nice weather of today and carry it into the night ahead. Nice night tonight. Clear to partly cloudy generally. A few more clouds overnight in western and central New York. Mild. Low temps 40s to near 50. For tomorrow, some sunshine. Most limited near Lake Ontario where there might be a sprinkle. Be a warm day though. High temps 70s to near 80. On Friday, early sun and cloudy with afternoon and evening showers spreading from west to east across the area. High temperatures Friday from the mid-60s in Niagara to the upper 70s in eastern Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Kevin. Checking the stories making news where you live across New York and Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania House Republicans are calling for the full release of the findings of the arson investigation at the governor's residence in Harrisburg. In a letter to Governor Josh Shapiro today, a group of lawmakers said, quote, many of Pennsylvania's elected representatives and senators have serious and legitimate questions about how the arson occurred. They asked the Pennsylvania State Police to release the full unedited report. Meanwhile, the governor's mansion in Harrisburg reopened for the first time yesterday since that attack a week and a half ago. The governor telling reporters,
I'm not going to live in fear, period. I'm grateful for the honor the people of Pennsylvania have given me and Lori and our kids to live here. We consider it our responsibility as temporary stewards of this wonderful home to not just live here, but to welcome people here.
The Shapiro family still has yet to resume living in the home. That fire happened April 13th. In Buffalo, New York, a judge has denied a plea against the death penalty in the Top Supermarket massacre. The latest from Family Life's Dee Haley in our Buffalo newsroom.
A federal judge has upheld the possibility of the death penalty in Peyton Gendron's federal case by denying a key motion from the man convicted in the racially motivated mass shooting at Tops Market on Jefferson Avenue in Buffalo. Gendron's attorneys reportedly did not want the death penalty as an option, claiming that prosecutors allegedly abused the grand jury process. That's according to the motion filed in federal court. Gendron is currently serving a life sentence without the chance of parole on state charges. As the federal case continues, the death penalty remains a possibility. Dee Haley, Family Life News.
Still no budget for New York State. The New York Post reporting this afternoon one of the hang-ups is a bill tucked inside that budget legalizing assisted suicide in the Empire State. Democrats want to allow mentally competent, terminally ill adults with 6 months or less to live to request a fatal cocktail of drugs from a doctor. The bill has failed to pass for 10 years. And if you're looking to move, one Pennsylvania county is offering to pay you to move there. Family Life's Brian Query explains.
Mercer County is along the Ohio border and sits between Pittsburgh and Erie, and it wants to grow. So much so, they are offering to pay people to move there. The county is offering $5,000 for people to move there, with some incentives taking that up to $7,000. Anyone taking up the offer must live 100 miles away. Mercer County already has 100 applicants, with 2 already chosen, and they are looking for a home to move into. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Next at 5, the Trump government cuts. Our own Martha Manikas Foster sits down with Houghton political science professor and dean of religion, Dr. Peter Meilander, to hash it out. Let's listen in.
If Christians aim to follow Jesus into improving the lives of people in distress, and the government program happens to be helping people who are in distress, the church does a lot of this and should be doing a lot of this, but why not go ahead and join in when the government is doing it as well, because the goal is getting met?
There is certainly a role for the government to play here. Of course, there are church initiatives and charities. These are organizations that do all kinds of good in the world. Christians ought to support those and want them to do things. But government also has a whole range of expertise, of connections, of ability to get into places that are hard to get into. It has opportunities to work with other governments. And people should understand that the U.S. government's foreign aid budget it's less than 1% of the U.S. budget. Yeah. It's a very small percentage of our spending, but it makes a big impact in a lot of places. So I think that we don't have to pit the private charitable or church-based organizations against the government as if it had to be one or the other. There's a role for both of these entities to play.
So as a country diminishes its foreign aid, is that a time for the church to step up more? Are people going to be dying? I know this is kind of a raw question, but what's the consequence?
Well, there are real consequences. I mean, if you read the news about the cuts that have been made to USAID, the government funding organization, for example, there are medical clinics in developing countries around the world that have simply had to shut down. Is it in theory true that a church-based organization could step up and fill that gap? Well, yes, of course. That doesn't mean it'll happen, though, and it certainly doesn't mean it'll happen really fast. There are places that don't have access to equipment, that don't have access to medical supplies and these sorts of things. And so I think there's a real cost to human lives and human well-being in places. And I don't think we should underestimate the way in which this does harm the image of the United States around the world.
You can subscribe, listen to, and share Inside Out and all of Family Life's original podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or at familylife.org. Time next for tonight's market report, brought to you by Faithward Advisors. Wall Street is closing with stocks higher. At the final bell, the Dow gained 419 points to 39,606. The S&P 500 gained 88 points to 5375, and the Nasdaq rose by 407 points to 16,708. Faithward Advisors is a Christian financial planning firm online at faithwardadvisors.com.
Hi, I'm Rob West with a Faith and Finance Minute. I've got a riddle for you, and I hope you find it hilarious. Ready? How can you identify a dogwood tree in the middle of the night? Simple. By its bark. Okay, that wasn't hilarious. But do you know what is? In 2 Corinthians 9, verse 7, the Bible said God loves a cheerful giver. Why is that hilarious? Well, you probably know the New Testament was written in Greek. But did you know that the Greek word for cheerful also meant hilarious? So perhaps God wants us to be uber cheerful in our giving. That would be hilarious. If you have trouble with hilarious giving and sometimes think even cheerful giving might be a stretch, give by faith, believing cheerfully that God will meet all of your needs. Get biblical answers to your financial questions in the FaithFi community. Download FaithFi, Faith and Finance, in your app store or visit faithfi.com.
Coming up on the 5 o'clock report, the birthday you won't want to miss. But first, one last look at weather.
I'm Kevin Williams, and here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. We'll take the nice weather of today and carry it into the night ahead. High pressure will hold firm into tomorrow. However, as we approach the weekend, warmer air and more moist air will eventually combine with an approaching front to bring showers. Here are the forecast details. Nice night tonight. Clear to partly cloudy generally. A few more clouds overnight in western and central New York. Mild. Low temps 40s to near 50. For tomorrow, some sunshine, most limited near Lake Ontario, where there might be a sprinkle. Be a warm day, though, high temps 70s to near 80. On Friday, early sun, then cloudy with afternoon and evening showers spreading from west to east across the area. High temperatures Friday from the mid-60s in Niagara to the upper 70s in eastern Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Kevin. Finally, at 5, happy birthday to the Bard. Family Life's Mark Webster explains.
A horse! A horse! My kingdom for the horse!
Just one of the countless quotes gifted to the English language by the Bard on Avon, William Shakespeare, whose birthday this is. From his famed plays, poems, and sonnets remain dozens of words and expressions we use today. To wit, wild goose chase, in a pickle, break the ice, brave new world, it's Greek to me, star-crossed lovers, heart of gold, bedazzled, lonely, swagger, generous, eventful. To list more would either be too much of a good thing or enough to make you say good riddance, both of which are also Shakespearean gems. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
And that's the world that we live in for Wednesday, the 23rd of April. I'm Sarah Harnish, and this is the 5 o'clock report on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.